TV's biggest cash prize. It's the $64,000 question. And here's the master of the quiz, Bob Monkhouse.
Thank you, and thank you for being with us again. 64,000 welcomes to you all. Actually, I've had almost 64,000 letters to me personally. I'd like to assure you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to answer each and every one of those letters from the viewers, each and every one personally. Thanks for the letters. Taking care of that. No, hundreds of you have written to me and are still writing, asking why we call the show the $64,000 question. Well, I explained that way back at the beginning of the first series, but I suppose some of you missed it. I dare say there are some viewers who won't hear my explanation this time because they're in the kitchen doing the dishes. So as soon as they've finished doing the dishes, ladies, perhaps you'll pass this on to your husbands. Now, don't I understand life? Anyway, nearly 40 years ago, the original American quiz show became the national rage. Nearly 40 years ago. It was the biggest thing on American television, and its key phrase entered the international language. It was used everywhere, and ever since has been used by politicians, by journalists, by authors, ordinary folk. In fact, whenever you and I have been on the spot, surely we've said it. We've said that simple phrase, hey, that's the $64,000 question. Well, you don't mess around with such a universally accepted catchphrase, so although our top prize is £6,400, the highest cash prize permitted on British television, we thought it would be only right and proper to stick to the traditional expression that everyone knows means the big one. Now, what's at the top of our money mountain? Take a look at it. £6,400. If you'd like to try for it, have writing materials, pen and paper handy. Later in the programme, I'll give you the address to write to after the commercial. Will one of tonight's hopefuls win this? Now that's the $64,000 question. And there they sit. Our first three contestants in this series to be putting their learning on the line, whatever religious persuasion they might normally have tonight, they're all Quakers. We have a garden centre manageress from Lavenham in Suffolk. We have a director of finance from Leyland in Lancashire. And returning from our previous series, Sheila Altree, our laboratory technician from Devon, to answer questions on Greek mythology. Having already won £1,600, she's back tonight to try and break through that £3,200 barrier. Let's wish all three of them a lucky night. Now, if you were a young lady and you'd always lived in a country village and your father was in farming and you'd spent your entire life working in horticulture, what subject would you expect to answer questions on? Seems obvious, doesn't it? Just to make sure, let's meet the lady herself, Angie Bishop. Angie, joining over here. So, what's your subject, Angie?
Well, the Carry On films.
Obvious, isn't it? Carry On films. Yes. You guessed that, I'm sure. Anyway, you're a big fan, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Well, before I carry on and ask a question on these typically British comedies, I'd like to ask you about Lavenham. Is it a typical British village?
Yes, a lot of medieval houses, lovely church.
And how many inhabitants do you have?
About 1,800, 2,000.
Oh, that's bigger than my little village in Bedfordshire. With us, it's two's company, three's a demonstration. I bet every one of your 1,800 is wishing you well, got their fingers crossed for you tonight, so I'll get on with it. I'll get on with it by telling you your first question is worth £1. I had that quid here. And £1 is all you'll get if you get your answers wrong between £1 and £64. As soon as you get to 64, you get to keep that money and play on top of that. Try and double it up all the way to £6,400. Are you ready to play?
I am.
Well, here we go. For £1 in Carry On Constable, Kenneth Connor plays Constable Constable. Is that true or false, Angie?
That's true.
It is true. You've got your quids in. He's called Constable Charlie Constable. Good. For £2 in Carry On Up the Khyber, my favourite, name the Highland Regiment guarding the Khyber Pass who were nicknamed the Devils in Skirts.
The Third Foot and Mouth.
The Third Foot and Mouth is right, Angie. For £4 now, which film had the subtitles From Here to Maternity and The Preggers Opera?
Carry On Matron.
Carry On Matron is right for £4. For £8, in which film does Harry H. Corbett, dressed like Sherlock Holmes, play the part of Detective Sergeant Bung?
It's my favourite one, Carry On Screaming.
That's your favourite, Carry On Screaming, good. For £16, in Carry On Nurse, who has his temperature taken with a daffodil?
It's Wilfred Hyde White playing the Colonel.
That's right, yes. From great surprise to him, I feel sure, at the first rehearsal. £32. Judy Geeson and Patrick Mower play sergeants in Carry On England. Can you tell me the surnames of the characters they play?
Patrick Mower plays Sergeant Len Abel and Judy Geeson plays Sergeant Tilly Willing.
You've told me more than I've got. That's pretty good. That's worth the 32 quid. Thank you. Now, for £64, which is yours to keep no matter what happens, Charlie Sage has a major problem in Carry On Sergeant. On what day is he called up?
His wedding day.
I should know. I played the part. You've just got 64 quid. Well done. That correct answer, of course, means you got the 64. And you could walk out the door with 64 if you wanted to, but I take it that you'd either try and build it up to the ton.
I'd like to carry on,
Go
yes.
for 100 quid. Well, you will do that later in today's show, if that's this evening's programme, if you like.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Our second player tonight spends his time in the world of finance. Well, his hobby also takes him into another world. And it's a lovely world, full of beautiful things. To find out just what beautiful creatures interest him, let's say hello to Peter North. Beautiful things. Beautiful and elusive things. Tell us what your subject is.
It's British butterflies, Bob.
British butterflies. Makes a change. Most of our players have butterflies in their stomachs. You've got yours in your head.
In the stomach as well.
Have you got them there as well? Where do you pursue them, Peter?
Well, wherever I can, but typically these days it's more when I'm on holiday in France.
Yes, of course, the French countryside has a great number of different species, I believe.
Yes, a lot more than over here.
Well, tonight you're in pursuit of something equally elusive, but £6,400 is a pretty thing to net. So let's get on underway with your first question, worth exactly 100 pence. You ready?
Yes.
For £1, then, the largest resident butterfly in Britain is found in the Norfolk Broads and called the swallowtail. True or false?
True.
You have your pound, Peter. For £2, as a general rule, what do butterflies have on the end of their antennae that distinguish them from moths?
Clubs. The clubbed antenna.
Yes, I will accept clubs. I had knobs, but clubs or knobs, £4. Now for this next question, Peter. What general name is given to the butterflies of the family Hesperiidae, whose wings are the same length as the body?
They're the skippers.
Skippers is right. And for £8, which butterfly is named after a famous cove in Dorset and is still only found along the coast of Devon and Dorset?
The Lulworth skipper.
The Lulworth skipper, so named in 1890, I'm told. For £16, Peter, one of the brown butterflies, Lasiomata megera, takes its name from the place where it chooses to bask in the sun. What is the butterfly's name?
As it likes to bask on a wall, it's called the wall brown.
Yeah, that's where it likes. Doesn't care for Mallorca at all. For £32, the butterfly known scientifically as Vanessa atalanta is one of the butterflies that's so often seen on Buddleia and Michaelmas daisy. What's its everyday name, Peter?
It's called the Red Admiral.
Red Admiral is right for £32. And now for £64, which is yours to keep if you win it. There are two species of butterfly in Britain whose caterpillars are frequently seen in kitchen gardens, damaging the crops. They are Pieris brassicae and Pieris rapi. What is their everyday name?
Known as the cabbage white.
You've just won £64, sir. Which is yours to keep, no matter what. So, I don't know whether you want to walk out the door with 64 or try to make it to 100 today.
I'll try and make it to 100. Thanks,
Good.
Bob.
Our first two players have very courageously agreed to come back in the same show twice. That's quite a strain on the nervous system, you know. So Peter will be back in part 2 of tonight's show, but meanwhile, let's meet again. The lady from Lavenham, hoping to carry on up the money mountain, Angie Bishop. You meet again so quickly. Thank you for volunteering to do this twice in the same show. It helps us get started up on the new series. And you've had a little breather, haven't you? Just
Yes, that's right.
To calm your nerves, and you're over that first 64 hump. And you look calm and collected. Do you feel OK?
I feel better than I did earlier today.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, while you're in the mood, let's see if we can take you from £64 all the way up to 800 if we can. Always remembering, should you fail at any stage on the way to 800, you'll fall back to the 64 you already have. With that in mind, let's try and turn your score of 64 into a century with the first question for £100. In Carry On Regardless, when Kenneth Connor ends up on the 4th bridge, he's mistaken his mission. What should he be doing, Angie?
He should be playing bridge with someone, playing the 4th person at bridge.
That's right, for £100. Now, double that to 200?
Yes, please.
OK. For 200, I'm going to ask you a two-part question. The first part. What was Barbara Windsor's first Carry On film?
Carry On Spying.
Carry On Spying is right in the first part. In the second part of 2, in Carry On Spying, Barbara Windsor played Daphne Honeybutt, an extremely competent trainee agent. What is her code name in the film?
She was given the name of Brown Cow, and her number was 4711.
All perfect and well won, £200. Beautifully won, I think. 4711. I think the joke there was 4711 was a popular eau de cologne at the time.
Yes.
Right. You ready for your £400 question?
Yep.
I'm going to ask you a two-part question again for 400. In the first part of 2, who plays a character called Belle, who says, "My intimate friends call me Ding Dong"?
Joan Sims.
Joan Sims. Do you remember the movie?
Carry On Cowboy.
That's right. In part 2 of 2, what character is Joan Sims playing when she says, "Oh dear, I seem to have got a little plastered"?
It's in Carry On Up the Khyber.
It is.
She's playing Lady Rough Diamond.
Lady Rough Diamond is right, and you've got £400. You know your subject. You really do. Now, that's your cash. That £400 is yours. What's it to be, pay out or play on?
I'd like to play on, please.
All right. I'm going to ask you a three-part question, Angie, about occasions when male actors appeared in drag in female costume. Look at the screen, please. The first part of 3. In which film does Bernard Bresslaw appear like this?
Carry On Doctor.
Carry On Doctor is right in the first part. Look at the screen again. In part 2 of 3, in which film do Kenneth Williams and Charles Hawtrey appear like this?
It's Carry On Constable.
Carry On Constable is right in the second part. Look at the screen. In the third part of 3, in which film do Sid James and Peter Butterworth appear like this?
It's Carry On Dick.
You just won £800. All right, £800. It's serious money now, Angie. I have to talk to you seriously about it. I have to ask you a serious question. Are you going to take the £800 or come back and try for this? Remember, if you fail at the £1,600 question, then you'll be flat on the floor with your 64. But if you succeed at 1,600, this lot will be yours. But it does give you the obligation, if you play on, to go through the 3,200 barrier and on to £6,400. So, I have to ask you at this point once again, will you give up or will you go on?
I'd like to go on, please.
All right, for £1,600, 1,600, I'm going to ask you a 4-part question. Each correct answer will reveal a quarter of a picture on the video wall, and that'll be a key question picture, but more about that when we come to it. We've chosen just one film, and we're going to ask you 4 questions about Carry On Doctor. In the first part of 4, Angie, what part is played in the film by Peter Gilmore?
He plays an ambulance man.
That's correct in the first part. In the second part of 4, whose portrait is on the wall in the hall by the lift doors?
It's the actor James Robertson Justice.
That's absolutely right. Part 3 of 4, name the male character who goes to prenatal classes.
Mr. Barron.
Is correct in the third part, played by?
Charles Hawtrey.
Correct. And in 4 of 4, for £1,600, Angie Bishop, how does Mr. Roper try to make the staff think his temperature is higher than it is?
He puts the thermometer in the tea.
You've got as high as you can go so far. £1,600 is yours. This picture up here, you can quit and take your £1,600, or by answering the key question correctly, Angie, you earn the right and the obligation to play through 3,200 to 6,400. So what's it to be, double or quit?
I'd like to try and double.
I'm going to ask you the identity of the chap right in the middle of the photograph, in between the performers. He directed all the Carry On films. Tell me his name and you'll qualify to carry on to try to get through the £3,200 barrier.
Gerald Thomas.
Jerry Thomas is right. That's marvellous. That means the next time we meet, you'll be trying to break through that 3,200. And after all that excitement, you deserve a break, Angie. Let's all take one. Thank you. I'm delighted to be able to tell you that our head of light entertainment, Wolfie, has agreed to continue making the programme as long as I hold the negatives. Oh, yes. Oh, have I got secrets? Which means that, although we have our full complement of players for this series, we will be back. So if any of you have any special knowledge that you'd like to share with us and perhaps win £6,400 into the bargain, here is the address to write to. The $64,000 question, Central Television, Lenton Lane, Lenton Lane, Nottingham. Help the post office sorters by putting NG, National Gallery Lucky 7, to NA, National Assistance. Okay? Now, let's welcome back the man who has what used to be called a butterfly mind. He's putting it to very good use in his quest for the big 64. Back to try for 100 and move up to 800. Well, let's hope so. Let's have a flutter of applause for the butterfly man, Peter North. The butterfly man. He will be known now as the butterfly man, not just a director of finance. You're a family man, Peter.
Yes, wife Susan, and I've got a young boy, Andrew.
Oh, lovely. Do Susan or Andrew share your hobby?
Sue does. Andrew's more interested in chasing the butterflies off.
Oh, right. Oh, right. OK. Now we're going to try and turn your score of 64 into 100. Are you all set?
Yes, Bob, thank you.
OK, Susan and your young lad will be rooting for you at this moment. As I say, for £100, there is one butterfly in Britain called a fritillary, which is not a member of the fritillary family. Which butterfly is that, Peter?
It's the Duke of Burgundy.
The Duke of Burgundy fritillary is correct for £100, and for £200, a two-part question, Peter, about two butterflies that take their name from people. Look at the screen, please. In the first part of two, a Belgian lepidopterist first described this butterfly in 1947. Now it bears his name. What is it?
It's a Burger's clouded yellow.
Burger's clouded yellow, Coleus australis. And look at the screen once more for the second part of two. This butterfly is now confined to the Isle of Wight and was named after a titled lady who was thought to be eccentric because she studied butterflies. Has she shared that with you? Can you name the butterfly?
Yes, Bob, it's the Glanville fritillary.
Named after Lady Glanville, you now have £200. Well done, sir. For £400, Peter, two-part question. Going to ask you about butterflies that take their name from places, OK? First part of two, look at the screens, please. This butterfly is distinguished from the small skipper by a little black dot on its antennae. Take my word for it, you can't see it in the picture. It takes its name from a county. What's the name of that butterfly, Peter?
It's the Essex skipper.
It is the Essex skipper. Look at the screen again, please. In the second part of two, this butterfly is named after the country where it's most often found, and also after the hundred-eyed hero of Greek mythology. What's the name of the butterfly, Peter?
It's the Scotch Argus.
You just made £400 for yourself. It's your cash, Peter. Do you want to play on?
Yes, please, play on, Bob.
For £800, I'm going to ask you a three-part question about markings, Peter. If you'd look at the screen again for me, please, in the first part of three. This mark, it appears on the underside of the hind wing of a butterfly whose caterpillars look like a bird's dropping. Name the butterfly, Peter.
It's a comma.
It is a comma, Polygonia...
C album.
C album. That's because it's white, I guess, the C album.
It looks like the letter C, and it's white.
And it's white.
C album.
Got, and the album means white. Look at the screen again, please, Peter. Second part of three. These marks on the underside of Isauria lathonia look like silver, and these lead to the everyday name of the butterfly. Can you tell me it?
It's the Queen of Spain fritillary.
The Queen of Spain fritillary is correct. And in the third part of three, this white mark appears on the underside of the hind wing of a butterfly that's often found near elm trees. Peter North, for £800, name that butterfly.
It's a white letter hair streak.
White letter hair streak is correct for £800. Congratulations. Now, Peter, £800 is serious money. I have to ask you a serious question. You've got to decide whether to take the £800 or come back and try for the £1,600. But remember, if you fail at the £1,600 question next week, you'll be out of here, kid, with just 64 quid. But if you succeed at £1,600, this lot will be yours to keep. Will you give up or go on?
I'd like to go on, please, Bob.
What about that? Next time you'll be playing for £1,600, keep thinking very ahead in the butterfly book. You could be winging your way to £1,600. Now, let's have a very special round of applause for our final player today. She's a lab technician who, since the last series last year, has been locked in the laboratory. Nobody knew she was there. Researching her subject. She's come back to us a year later. We're very grateful to her for returning to us tonight to try and break through the 3,200-pound barrier, because she's got that 1,600-pound safe. So she really, she's come back to us feeling fairly secure. She's on her way to the big 64, I'm sure, because she really knows her stuff on Greek mythology. So let's meet her once again, Sheila Altry. Sheila, it's good to see you again.
And to see you, Bob.
Let's see, 4'11", was it?
5 foot exactly. Thank you.
I remember, still teasing you. I will never forget what you do for a living, though. That's stayed in my mind for the whole year. Let's remind our viewers of two of your jobs.
I've been a morgue attendant on the night shift.
The night shift in a morgue, folks.
And I've also been a pub bouncer.
5 foot high, a pub bouncer and an attendant in a morgue. Either way, you're throwing bodies about, aren't you? Have you got family with you tonight, Sheila?
Yes, I've got my mother-in-law, Marjorie.
Oh, Marjorie's your mother-in-law?
Yes, indeed.
So you're borrowing your husband's mum?
Exactly.
For moral support. Well, I know everybody's rooting for you, she, of course, in order that there will be no distractions whatsoever, and so that the only thing that you will hear are my questions, I must ask you, please, to step into the isolator, and good luck, Sheila. Sheila Altry, can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, thank you.
Then we'll begin. For a total prize of £3,200, I'll ask you a 5-part question about one of the best-known characters in Greek mythology, Odysseus, known to the Romans as Ulysses. And I need 5 correct answers, Sheila. Should you wish to pass on any part, just tell me so, and we'll come back to that part after I've asked you the remainder of the question. In the Iliad, Odysseus competed with another warrior for the arms of Achilles. Name the other warrior.
Ajax.
Ajax is correct in the first part. I would have accepted Aias. In the second part of 5, name the nymph who kept Odysseus on the island of Ogygia for 7 years.
Calypso.
Calypso is correct in the second part. In the third part of 5, to help Odysseus return home, a king gave him a bag containing the adverse winds. Name the king.
Aeolus.
Aeolus is correct in the third part. In the fourth part, when Odysseus eventually returns to Ithaca, he's recognized by his nurse. What is her name?
Euryclea.
Euryclea is correct. And in the fifth part of 5, Sheila, for £3,200, Odysseus' wife Penelope delayed a decision on taking a second husband by saying she must finish making a shroud for Odysseus' father. For £3,200, Sheila, named the father.
Laertes.
Laertes is correct for £3,200. Congratulations. Next week, £6,400. Can Sheila Altry do it? That's the $64,000 question.